Okay, the recording has started. Okay, at this time, I would like to call the Special Committee on Criminal Justice Complex to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Varga? I know she's on the line. She might be muted. Commissioner Varga?
Hello? Yes.
Commissioner Marecki?
Here.
Commissioner Baydoun?
Here.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Here.
Chair Kinlock?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the chairman's remarks. I have none at this time. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the January 20th, 2022 meeting minutes. A motion is been moved and supported to approve the meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This action stands approved. Next item on the agenda.
We're moving to item D, new business. Item D1, readiness update from the Wayne County Sheriff's Office.
At this time, I'd like to call on the Sheriff Department to start this conversations. I have had a conversation with the sheriff, and he indicated that his staff would be prepared to talk about how the Sheriff's Department is moving along to be prepared to move into the new criminal justice complex. I've also asked for them to talk about, from a standpoint of equipment and operations, the current state of the Tether operations. And so at this time, I would call on who will be speaking first from the Sheriff's Department in regards to this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Under Sheriff Mike Jafer here. We have multiple individuals that are here from the Sheriff's Office. Chief Dunlap will be leading the question and answers.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Chief Dunlap.
So good morning, Commissioner. Good morning to all of the commissioners, and thank you, Under Sheriff. Just if I can real quickly, just acknowledge our team that's on the call. Certainly we have the Under Sheriff. We have Director Harp, our Director of Administration. We have Deputy Chief Ramo, who oversees the courts, Jail 3, where Tether is located. We have Deputy Chief Lynette Kane, who oversees Jails 1 and 2 downtown. We also have Captain Bates, who's assigned at Jail 3, where Tether is located. We have Captain Moore, who is now back on the transition team. And then we have Captain Theo Sims, who is our captain over patrol operations. I believe I've identified all of our team. And I just want to say to you, Commissioner Kinlock, and to all the commissioners, thank you all for not only your concern, but also your support and for inviting us to this meeting. And as you reached out to the sheriff and myself last week, certainly just starting off, I know that some of you saw the story written in the paper about Tether operations, and I realize that the reporters are also in the meeting. And so to their credit, Christy McDonald and Joe Gillian, I do want to say that she did tell me in advance that, you know, the news is only so limited. So there's only so much of the story that she can tell. And unfortunately, there's so much of what really goes on that did not make it into that story. Just to start out, you know, our Tether operation currently today, we have 1,407 individuals in the jail. We have 1,672 on electronic monitoring, our Tether. That's our population as of today. But just to kind of give you a snapshot of, you know, how many people we process, for the last 3 years, going back to 2019. In 2019, there was a total of 3,847 enrollments with an average daily population of 843 in 2019. In 2020, there was 4,436 enrollments with an average daily population of 1,227. 2021, we had 4,588 enrollments with an average population daily of 1,765, which is roughly 80 or so higher than what our current population is today for Tether. To that end, it is my firm belief that not only do we run the largest and best Tether operation in the state of Michigan and probably the country, we have some very hardworking individuals that are assigned to the day-to-day operation and management of that unit. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But are we close? Certainly, as I stated, we are probably the very best, as demonstrated by the confidence of the court to continue to place people on our Tether program. Let me just kind of give you an understanding about how that process worked. I think there's a lot of people out there, and I see some of my friends, the defense attorneys, Diallo and Longstreet, who knows how to contact me directly if there's a current issue, and they do that often. But what is missing from that article is the Tether enrollment process prior to the pandemic is at minimum a 48-hour enrollment process. Let me paint the picture for you. If an individual is standing in the court today at 10 a.m. and the judge says, I'm going to release you on a $10,000 bond with Tether, and that case is concluded at 10:30, that individual does not come directly back to the court, but that attorney may leave the court, say to the family, okay, post a bond, the judge ordered him released on Tether. And so the family may either come to the court or go to the jail and pay the bond. And what they don't understand is, because we take an average of about 75 to 80 people to court every day, it would be a logistical nightmare to try to bring them back to the jail one at a time. So we take them out as a group in the morning and we bring them back as a group in the evening. So that individual that received bond with Tether at 10:30 is not back at the jail till roughly 4 or 4:30. That individual has to be booked back into the jail. Our jail management system has to be updated so that the staff is aware of what the judge ordered. And that process of booking 75, 80 people back into jail takes roughly 2 or 3 hours. Now we're at 8, 9 o'clock. And then a classification officer will get a flag. This individual was ordered released Tether with bond, and start the enrollment process by checking to see if there's any outstanding warrants. And we'll probably conclude that work somewhere around 9:30, 10 in the evening. The next morning, the Tether unit comes in. 9 o'clock, they begin doing their background checks, setting up enrollment, a place for the individual to go. If there's a victim involved, notify the victim that this person is going to be released. Find out from the victim if the victim have any concerns. Do they want a victim tether? Do they want or do we have to set up a perimeter around that individual so that we're alerted if that tethered individual violate that zone? That process could take from 9 o'clock to about 11:30. And then the tether officer will then contact the jail and say, all of the tether participants, bring them to the tether unit for enrollment. We'll bring over roughly 15 to 20 at a time, and then we start the enrollment orientation. Enrollment orientation may take anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then after the orientation, the mounting of the device. This process, if everything checks out, the individual has no other outstanding matters, they can be outfitted with a tether by 4 o'clock or 5:30 in the evening. the next day. Now, if there's outstanding warrants in another jurisdiction, or for some reason we can't notify the victim, that individual cannot leave the jail, because we have a duty to the victim and the public to make sure that they're notified and that we're setting up the proper protocols. Now, that is, the process given, full staffing prior to COVID, with an average daily population, as I indicated, of really, it was more like 750, but this 843 for 2019 is skewed a little bit by what was happening leading up to the pandemic. Okay, now, here in 2021, the Tether population has doubled, almost tripled. There has been an additional maybe 24 hours added to that process. Currently today, we have 31 individuals waiting to be tethered. 3 of them came in on the 15th. We have 14, no, I'm sorry. 3 of them came in on the 14th. 14 came in on the 15th, and 14 came in on the 16th. Now, we haven't gotten the batch for the 17th, okay? And so in that, I think you probably saw in that story, out of the, 4,500 almost people that were enrolled, the reporters found, I think it was 2 or 3 cases that they highlighted where, there was some delay in the person being released. Let me say this, in a perfect world, our goal is to get them out as soon as the judge say they can be released. But that is not reality, because there is a duty and a responsibility that we have to safety. To that end, Sheriff Washington, Under Sheriff Jafer, myself, and all of the people on this call, we have very strong working relationships with organizations like the Bond Project, to help those individuals that, may not be able to afford bond or post bond, so that we can get them out of the jail as expeditiously as possible. We have residential treatment contracts, as you all are aware of, that you all supported and approved for individuals who a judge say, well, they can be released. And then we make the phone call and the family say, oh, they can be released, but they can't come here. You have to find somewhere for them to go. And so these are the things that we're doing, trying to be, socially just in helping these people reform and get on their feet. I don't know what questions you might ask specific to the news article, but the things that was not said, as I indicated, was when you look at the volume and the fact that there is a backlog in the American criminal justice system. That wasn't shared in that article. We currently have about 300 plus individuals that have been waiting to go to trial for now 2.5 years, okay? That backlog is not because of the Wayne County Sheriff Office, just like, any backlog or delay with Tether. But I again want to stress that the courts have much confidence in the program, that they continue to use it day in and day out, as indicated by the numbers that we currently have on Tether. So that's my introduction to that. I'll pause and see what questions you have, and hopefully be able to help you understand better what the situation is.
Thank you. So there are a couple of other individuals who were invited to the meeting. Lillian Diallo
Yes.
is present. Diallo is present. She's the president of the Wayne County Criminal Defense Bar Association, as well as Attorney Christine Longstreet.
Yes.
If she is present as well. She's with the Neighborhood Defenders on Service. And so just had conversations with them specifically. And Ms. Longstreet, I would like to recognize you first as it relates to your experiences and your understanding of in regards to this matter.
Thank you, Chairman Kinlock, and hello to all the commissioners. You know, honestly, what I can say is some of the things that Chief Dunlap shared, I wasn't necessarily aware of. Some of the things that happened in the background. And I think what happens is that, you know, we're all sort of in this thing together in a certain respect, especially given COVID and the rising population in Wayne County Jail. So I think that it would be helpful if there was like maybe a one-page fact sheet so people could understand like this is where we are in the process. And then, you know, not that we sort of work in cooperation. So we have social workers on staff at NDS. And so we're always willing to support whatever efforts the county sheriff's office has or needs. So, you know, I think that sometimes things can just be resolved if we sort of reach out to one another. But I know we only have like 24 hours in a day. And so I don't want to give the impression that I'm critical because, you know, I've been in the system, been working in the system. So I know it, but I also get the calls from the family members and sometimes they're just unaware, right? So I guess that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today and giving us your insight in regards to this issue. And is Ms. Diallo available? Is she present?
I'm here.
Okay.
Hi. Good afternoon. I want to acknowledge the chair, Commissioner Kinlock, and to everyone else on the call on the Zoom. So I would echo what Sister Counsel said. As the president of this bar association, we're dealing with the private bar. I have been dealing with the issue of Tether more and more from my constituents. I really appreciate what Dunlap said, what Chief Dunlap said, and we need to know those things so that we can take that back and have this dialogue so it's not them against us or someone thinking that we're shading the truth or they're shading the truth. We just need to have that open dialogue. And yes, Chief Dunlap, I do call you on your cell phone when there's an issue. And we will continue to keep those lines of communication open. But, you know, some of the Tether issues, the zone thing, I did not know. So I'm going to have to digest that and take this back to membership. And if, in fact, you can give us some kind of one-page fact sheet, half a page, whatever it is, so that I can help membership understand. And then membership can help the clients and their families understand what's going on with this process. And I do know we have an issue in criminal justice, social justice right now with all these trials backed up. I have about 40 homicides waiting to go, my own. So, you know, we just have to work together a little bit better where we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And then also Alan Cox, the president of the union. Mr. Cox, are you available? Okay, Mr. Cox. So to go back to the sheriff's department. Chief Dunlap, you heard the comments from Ms. Diallo and Attorney Longstreet. You know, particularly the request for one sheet. Do you think that will help as well?
Yeah, and again, through the chair, thanks again. Certainly, let me say, we can definitely provide that, and we can go even a step above that. If they want to invite us to some of their meetings, as they did a couple of years back, you know, there may be other concerns that, you know, we believe in being as transparent as we possibly can, because sometimes there are some hiccups, okay? And we don't hide from that. But, you know, I think this is certainly long overdue. It has been explained time and time again. And I've asked my team to let's sit down and put together, you know, what this protocol looks like so that we can not only share with the defense bar, but also with the bench so that the bench can communicate it as well. So Absolutely. I think, stronger communication will probably have addressed this, because certainly if you read that news article and not know that part of the process, then you say, well, there's a problem. But certainly over the last 2 years, you make a call anywhere to government and you can't get through. And so, we're no different in terms of the impact that this pandemic has had on not just our country, but our world as well.
Okay. So let me, before I call on other commissioners for questions, let me ask you, based on the way that the system is currently operating, is there any discussion as it relates to any sort of necessary changes that would be required to better or to enhance this part of your operations as we transition into the new jail, as far as a question of readiness, and any sort of resources that's necessary to improve these operations?
So let me just say, Commissioner, we're always questioning our own processes. I don't think anybody challenge their own process more than we do, the people on this call. Probably so much that, my team on the call probably, sometimes get tired. And because we know that there's probably always an opportunity for improvement. And as you know, we have streamlined our operation in that, we have 3 jails. And for the most part, the Hamtramck jail is limited to just Tether operation. And so we've consolidated so that we can shift our staff to meet the demand for number one, booking, custody, control, and care, and release. Those are our priorities in the jail. And so we believe, again, that we're doing it probably better than anyone in the state and possibly the country, but that is not to the tune that we don't think that there's always room for improvement. So as we move to the new jail, we do have plans based on the design in terms of how we house and locate people. I don't really want to go into detail on this call with, media and folks, but we are looking at making just some housing plan and designs that we believe will add even more efficiency to the process. And the fact that it's going to be a criminal justice campus where, the court and the jail is pretty much almost like one building, if you will. We believe that there will be some opportunities for improvement as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And so I'll now ask commissioners who would like to speak, and I will recognize in this order, Commissioner Varga and then Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Varga, you had your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I can attest to saying that, or the fact that we do have a very, very, very good tether unit. I think the sheriffs are doing a very good job with it, and especially under these circumstances. And I did not answer the media calls because I did not know myself. So I really appreciate hearing it firsthand today. I was wondering, though, if the judges are handing down the order, would that be helpful if that piece of paper that they're going to draw up on the procedure, if that might be something that the courts could also give out to relatives of the person who is being tethered as well, so they would understand much better. Communication, I understand, is the key. And so that would be an added step that I would encourage if the Mr. Dunlap or any of any of the people think that it might be helpful. It's just a suggestion. But thank you for coming in. I missed you guys. I
Well,
used to chair public safety and I really do miss you, but I enjoy Ways and Means.
Yes, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, do you want me to respond to that?
Absolutely, yes, please.
All right, so through the chair, and again, Commissioner Varga, thank you for always your continued support. Certainly, you know, that's something that we're looking at as well. We have a probably daily, certainly a weekly discussion with the Chief Judge Tim Kinney of the Circuit Court, as well as Chief Judge Burton, you know, and all of our partners, because we see this as, you know, our success in the sheriff's office is certainly the success of the county. And we have had a conversation with Chief Judge Kinney, and he is looking at also inviting us to one of the bench meetings so that, you know, this can be communicated across the bench as well as throughout the defense bar. And we'll also make sure that we get that information up to commission as well.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Vice Chair Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and appreciate everyone being here. I wasn't aware that everyone was going to be here for this, but I understand there was an article that I had not seen and wasn't what I had raised a concern about this morning. But I was only, it's more of a general question that maybe Chief Dunlap might be able to answer, or someone else that's online, about our readiness for the phasing out of 3G as far as the tethers. There's been a number of articles that I've read, I don't believe any of them local press, but in things I've seen that there's the possibility of you know, that with this transition, that a lot of communication will drop through the cracks. And I just wanted to make sure something as critical as the Tether program, that the vendor has products that are going to be, are they 4G or I doubt they're 5G, but they're making room for 5G by eliminating 3G, and they keep pushing the date off, but it's coming eventually. And I just wonder if someone could speak to that, if we're ready for that.
So through the chair, Commissioner Anderson, I think that's a great question, you know, that to be asked, and something that we ought to be looking at right now. And I can tell you, while we don't have our Director of Technology on this meeting, I certainly believe that that's more of a question for the actual vendors themselves, because certainly they want to be as competitive as possible in the market. And those are things that certainly I don't know the exact answer. I can't tell you right now today if our vendors are ready for 5G, but I will tell you this, that our Tether unit do have the ability to also monitor individuals from their mobile devices. And we all know that, you know, 3G will not continue to support that type of monitoring. And so as we go forward, I'll make sure that, you know, I work with the deputy chief and the captain as we look to rebid those contracts, that those things are part of the rebidding process. I can say, based on my understanding right now, the technology works really, really well. Some time ago, you all invited us to talk to you, and I share with you just the great work of our people in Tether, how an individual started tampering with this device and they acted on it quickly. And we were able to intercept the guy in Chicago as he tried to go through customs, even though he cut and left his device here. And so that's to the credit of the great work of the men and women in the Tether unit. And then let me say this, you know, to the credit of Sheriff Washington, you know, one of the reasons that I asked all of them to be on the call, because I think it's important that you know who are the people that he has positioned across this agency to do the work that they do. All of them, I believe, I don't believe, I know, have been a part of this agency much longer than me. I've been in law enforcement 36 years longer than them, but Sheriff Washington, the undersheriff, recognize, their brilliance based on the experience and knowledge that they have here. And, you all may be tired of me saying this, but, I give them a lot of hell behind the scenes, and I need to praise them in public when it's proper. And, when we looked at the story, certainly, we know certain things sell news, but it's unfortunate, the hard work that they do and the numbers that I shared with you and the process was not able to make it to that story because of the limited space. But we will be monitoring that, Commissioner Anderson, and certainly get back to you on it.
I appreciate it. I think that's, critically important. It's not just with the Sheriff's Department, but across the board, our communication devices that the county has in all departments, we need to make sure they're ready for it because I know there's probably a lot that depend on cell phones too. I'm assuming that most of those would already be at least 4G, but I think we need to have a review of every department and make sure they're ready for it. And I appreciate that. I understand you can't have an answer always to every question that comes up, but I appreciate that you're going to look into it and let me know. And I think and the commission would be interested too, because it may require us to purchase some new devices. And I did want to ask one last question about the Tether program. And I appreciate that overview that you gave us at the beginning, but I'm concerned about, because we hear, and like, again, I did not see the article. I don't even know which newspaper it was in, but I did not see that. But about violent offenders, are they placed on tethers or are they all non-violent?
Through the chair, Commissioner Anderson, the decision is made by the courts of who gets placed on tether. And I can tell you, there are violent offenders on tether. I believe, as we reported, when we were interviewed by the news, that there is maybe one or two individuals that's on there that is charged with murder. But those are decisions made by, the respective courts. And again, although we don't make those decisions, I'm sure there's other factors that, the judge considered when making those decisions, including the fact that they realize that we have a pretty good program. And while we're not omnipotent, we do a pretty good job of getting to where we need to be to make sure that we can continue to control and monitor those that's in our program.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I absolutely want to thank Sheriff Washington, Under Sheriff Jaffa, as well as you, Chief Dunlap, and your team for joining us and responding to these questions. And of course, I appreciate Attorney Diallo and Longstreet, who have big and long voices in our community and especially in the legal community. So I want to thank you all for coming before us today. I'm not sure whether or not you're going to be a part of the administration's update that we are about to go into, but if so, I guess I'll hear you at that time as well. Thank you again.
Chairman, if I can just say, I think Attorney Diallo and I hope Attorney Longstreet also realize that we appreciate them as well. I think every person on this call in this agency is born and raised somewhere in Wayne County, and no one takes more serious the liberty, dignity, and freedom of the men and women that we're charged with the responsibility of managing than Sheriff Washington, Under Sheriff Jaffer, Chief Dunlap, Deputy Chief Kane, Deputy Chief Rammel, Captain Bates, Captain Moore, Captain Sims, and Director Hart. And so Ms. Diallo she hears it all the time. She calls me and give me the business, and I tell her I appreciate it, because God forbid if I ever was in a situation, I would want one of those two to represent me. And so we appreciate them as well. as well
Thank
as you all for your support.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again. At this time, Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
Thank you.
We're moving to item D2, an update from James Heath, Carter Fisher, Jay Shandor, Bill Rath, and Victoria Innes Edwards regarding the status of the criminal justice complex.
Corp Counsel, Heath.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We've made about 10% more progress on the jail since this call began. So I appreciate Chief Dunlap's comments and the like. If it is okay with you, I will go first to Bill Rath, who was from CGL. I know Bill was double booked here, and just want to give him the opportunity to talk about any construction related items, and then we can kind of move on to some of the other things that we want to update you on, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, James. I believe James Carter provided a report based on yesterday's executive summary from the Barton Mallow Company. Construction continues. We're processing approximately 500 people per day on the site, continuing to work in the courthouse, the admin building, the ADF and the JDF facilities. Work continues. Are there any specific questions in that regard?
No, you have given us, because this staff is very on point in providing us with the written points. But I want to ask at this time of the committee members, do you have any questions of CGL at this time?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Baidoon.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Are we still on target for the opening of the new center, the jail center?
If I could jump in on that, Commissioner, and this is contained in our written report, and I was going to touch on it as well. We have received some preliminary information from Bedrock as well as Barton Mallow about some potential scheduling delays affecting substantial completion. The process that CGL, Bill Rath, and his team and the county is engaged in right now is getting as many specifics as we can so that we can properly vet the information that we will be receiving from them. And so one of the things we did do in our report is put you on notice that we had received some information that there may be some slight delays in terms of substantial completion. There's some issues related to the supply chain problems that everyone is facing throughout the country, as well as reviewing some of the changes that we have been discussing with Bedrock, and you're aware of, Commissioner Baidoon, over the last 6 to 9 months. And so yeah. We don't have particulars that we can give you right now about that, but as we get more information, we will be updating you on the exact impact of that. But since you raised the question, I did want to address it. And Bill, if you got something you want to add to that, please feel free.
No, James, I think that's a fair statement at this point in time. Obviously, there's lots more detail in the background, but I think at this point in time, I think that's probably appropriate.
Okay, so with that being said, how soon do you think that you'll be able to get projected timelines, updates, and all of that? I know that we talked about having some additional documents and it relates to cost of some items. I think we touched on that at the last month's meeting. But, you know, how will that impact? You know, I'm just saying I absolutely want to, you know, try to get to the point of having just, even if we have some placeholder dates and timelines in these adjustments, but so what's your timeline of trying to get something?
Oh, you did? Yeah. Where'd you find on?
So I would hope, Mr. Chairman, that when we meet again in a month, we'd be able to give you more detail. But, you know, the process that we're engaged in now, we've asked some very specific questions of the developer and the general contractor. They are in the process of responding to us, and then as everything goes, we are going to be in the process of vetting everything that they tell us and going into discussions with them. And so it's kind of a mutual thing. My hope would be that we would be able to provide you with some information by the time of our next meeting. If that's not possible, I'll be able to tell you beforehand, why that is. So that's probably the most responsible answer I can give you right now as we speak today on February 17th, Mr. Chair.
Yes, and I absolutely understand all of the supply chain impact on constructions and all of but this here, we're talking about the jail, and so far everything's been moving pretty smoothly without any critical issues, and just want to make sure that we stay ahead of that, because we all know the history associated with the previous efforts in this direction. So you all have been very forthcoming since I've been on this commission and responding to our concerns and questions. And so absolutely, please keep us at the very.
And I want to reiterate something as well. We are not talking about any sort of delay that would take us outside of the contractual obligations that we have with respect to moving out of the existing facilities. Number one, we're far away from that. And number two, we are in no way just talking about issues which would impact the, finishing the project itself. I mean, so that's, I just want to be clear and put your mind at ease with respect to that. And so that this is not an issue of finishing the project, not an issue of not moving out of our facilities within the contractually negotiated time period. And further, one of the reasons this came up is we are in conversations with the developer about having a phased move-in approach for the facility. And so, as you well know, we're the complex is separate buildings, adult detention facility, which the sheriff is here speaking about in part, juvenile detention facility, administration building facility, the central utility plant, which is for all intents and purposes been completed. The ability to move in a phased approach is only beneficial to our end users, because that will give them more of an opportunity with respect to the all important transition. And so we are on top of it. I just want to put you at ease, Mr. Chairman, as well as the other members of the committee, that this is not an issue where we're concerned about completion in any way, or running up against the timetables contained in our agreement for vacating the currently used facilities.
Okay, thank you, and we look forward to that update. Any other questions from the commissioners or committee members? Any additional questions? Okay.
Sheriff Washington has his hand raised.
Okay, yes, Sheriff Washington, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Attorney Heath, Director Heath, for that update. You pretty much answered my question. I just wanted to make sure that as I'm speaking to the community all the time, every day, and they're asking about the jail process and progress, the new jails. I thought I heard some time ago, even before coming into the position of sheriff, that we were talking about a projected date or a contracted date of December 2022, no later than March 23. So as I'm talking to the community, am I saying that right?
And based on the yes. I mean, so we've been talking, as you well know, Sheriff, is fourth quarter of 2022.
That's still there.
For completion.
Okay.
And we are not, even with the discussions that we are now having with Rock, we are not far from that at all. And so, we had been pushing pretty aggressively, and we if there's any sort of change from that number, those dates, we will let you know. But you are in good stead as you are continuing to communicate with the community when you're out there.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yes. One quick question, and that is, last month we had various, we have the chief judge and various other presiding judges on regarding the outstanding, and we briefly touched on the settlement piece, and just wanted to know, was there any meetings or progress as it relates to the conversations that were had with Chief Judge Timothy Kenny?
So I have not been a part of a specific question or specific meeting on construction of a new civil justice courthouse. What I will tell you, Mr. Chairman, though, is that general negotiations with the court are ongoing that relate to funding issues, which do touch on the health of their current facilities as well as potentially new ones. But that's all of the update that I have for you today,
yeah.
Mr.
No
Chair.
problem. I'll back up with you later. Yeah, if that's fine.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, any other reports from your team that's necessary to be brought before us today?
Sure, just very, very briefly. The county has brought on in the last week or so a move consultant to assist primarily with getting our end users and their offices and departments prepared with the logistics of moving from existing facilities into the new one. Tamara Knapp is the person who's been brought on, and she will be a part of these committee meetings beginning next month, and she will be working very closely with Chief Judge Kenny, with Chief Dunlap and Sheriff Washington, and all of the folks from JDF and all of our end users. We have a meeting tomorrow with Chairwoman Bell regarding a proposal that we have for delegated authority. That process, we hope I won't get into the particulars, I'll let her weigh in on it as is her right as chair. But we have proposed a process somewhat similar to the change order process that all members of this committee are familiar with, that has been quite successful in kind of streamlining moving forward with change orders. Now, as we move into our transition phase, which is really on par with our construction at this point, there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of contracts which the end users and the county as a whole will need to enter into. And there's a pretty tight timeline because of some of the equipment logistics issues that you are well aware of. And so we are looking for a way to process those contracts in the most efficient way possible. And so we have put forward some thoughts to Chairwoman Bell regarding that, and hopefully we'll have a robust discussion with respect to that, and we'll be able to keep things moving along track. CGL and our procurement professionals, led by Aaron Wagner, have put together a really wonderful kind of timeline of when and how we need to get all of these agreements approved and processed. And our goal right now is to adhere to that timetable. And we think that the delegated authority proposal that we put forward will go a long way towards that. We have been engaging in ongoing discussions with the city of Detroit and other landowners in the immediate vicinity of the CJC regarding property and that can be used for additional parking. As those conversations develop, we will make this committee as well as the whole commission aware of that, but I want you to know that those conversations are ongoing. We have also started the process of looking for a facility manager who will work under the direction of the building department, Daryl Jones. We are consolidating a number of, separate standalone facilities into one complex. And so that produces obviously some efficiencies, but they have to be managed properly in order for us to take advantage of that. The sheriff's department will play a large role in that. And so we are engaged in that process as well. Our transition efforts are ongoing. We will be scheduling a meeting with the heads of all of our elected offices who will be a part of the facility, as well as our departments, to make sure that we continue on positively in that process. I think that they have been meeting individually, but as we really do ramp some things up and bring new members onto the team, I think it's important for us to level set again. I want to thank Chief Washington, Chief Dunlap. I can't tell you how happy we are to see Captain Moore, who was really a real integral part of Chief Dunlap's transition team, along with Sheriff Washington's team. And so we're happy to have her back in the call her captain and not lieutenant. That's about it. We've added Assistant CFO Aaron Wagner and Nkrumah Johnson-Wynn, who runs our municipal team, who will be a part of processing from a legal perspective a number of the contracts that need to be put through with vendors and other suppliers with respect to FF&E, as well as some of the services that will be required at the new facility. And so we are really adding folks to our team, it seems, on a weekly basis, and all with the goal of getting this facility online as quickly as possible. Mr. Chairman, Victoria Ennis Edwards had a personal matter she had to address today, and so she's not available to be a part of this call today, but she will be following up with some additional materials for you in advance of our next meeting. With that, Carter, Bill, anything you want to add, or are we okay for questions now?
Okay. At this time, I'll ask any committee member, do you have any additional questions? Do you have any additional questions of the administration? Okay. Mr. Council, want to thank you for joining us today, you and your team. And we look forward to getting the update at next month's meeting, and and any new developments that might specifically go along with that. So I want to thank you, for showing up today with this information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
We're moving to item E, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I know of no such other matters, and ask the administration, is there any other matters? And at this time, I would like to ask any of our commission staff if they have any items to come before this committee. And there's silence. And then the next item on the agenda.
We're moving to item F, public comments.
Can you please unmute everyone? And I'd like to ask anyone who is on the Zoom if you would like to address the committee at this time. Is there anyone on the Zoom who would like to address this committee? Please raise your hand to be recognized. Anyone who would like to address this committee? Okay. Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
And I just want to say, Chair, we did not receive any emails for public comments as well.
Yeah, part there, I forget that. Right, any emails. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda.
We're moving to item G, adjournment.
Motion is in order to adjourn.
So moved.
Is it support?
Support.
Supported to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chairman.
Do you know anybody who likes